Welcome to Muskegon Rising, a community service project of the Muskegon Rotary Club. Our purpose is to create lasting positive change. We've been doing that here since 1916. So, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Muskegon Rising. I'm your host today, DJ Hilson, and I have the honor, privilege, and pleasure of having Bob Lukens, director of, I guess, you're the director of something, Bob, and it has a lot to do with what happens, the convention. What is your title?
My title is Community Development Director for Muskegon County, but it's not community development in the traditional sense. Community development, often involves housing issues, affordable housing, other housing type initiatives that municipalities and counties go through. So my departments I have 4 departments within the county structure: the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Muskegon, the airport, the transit system, and the county parks.
Well, and all 4 of those departments are really critically important for the development of Muskegon itself. So I want to go back in time here just a little bit, because you are someone like me, sort of a transplant to this community, someone who saw an opportunity, took a job, and moved into Muskegon. What was it about Muskegon that attracted you to that position?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I worked for a Convention and Visitors Bureau in Illinois for 13 years. And there was really no room for advancement there. I wanted to direct a CVB somewhere in really, kind of the Midwestern U.S. or even as far south as Florida or something. At the time I was just looking around, and moving wasn't a big issue. Turned out it was because of my kids. But I saw the job come up, and it was for Community Development Director. And at that time it was the Convention Bureau, the transit system, and the airport. And I had a little bit of experience with airports in my former job at the Convention Bureau there. So I applied for the job. I kind of actually forgot that I applied for it. And I got a call from the county administrator at that time was Bonnie Hammersley. And she invited me, or we did a phone interview. And then she invited me up for a second interview with Bob Skolnick, Ken Mahoney, and Rilistine Wilkins, and Miss Hammersley. So I went through that interview process, and a few, week or 2 later, they offered me the job. And while I was here, though, afterwards, well, even before the interview and after the interview, I explored the town, of course. And one of the things that was really interesting to me was the sculpture, Muskegon Together Rising. It was sculpted by Richard Hunt, who's a world-famous sculptor from the Chicago area. He went to the School of the Art Institute there. And I saw the downtown of Muskegon at that time was empty. Mm-hmm. It was basically empty. This was 2011.
Yep.
And I saw that sculpture and the name of it, Together Rising, and I just saw opportunity. I saw a downtown that hadn't been fully developed. I knew something about the history of it, in doing my research for the interview process, but being able to see it in person and to see the potential of the area, I think, is what really brought me here.
Well, yeah, and I tend to agree with you. Having, I came in 99, and so I saw sort of the end of the mall downtown, and then I saw sort of the barren desert of downtown, and then you fast forward in today, and we're going to get to today, but the changes that have happened, all positive changes it is exciting for me to be a resident of this community, just watching all this happen. It's really kind of cool.
It is. When I was here, I have 3 children, and at the time I had an 8th grader, a sophomore in high school, and a senior in high school. So my boys are the bookends, and my daughter's in the middle. So I didn't want to pull the boys out their last year of school there, so they stayed for 9 months in the Chicago area. We lived in Oak Lawn, Illinois. And then I came up here for 9 months. So I was able to I went around everywhere in the county. I didn't know too many people at the beginning, So I was driving around looking for homes and, neighborhoods. And actually, I live right down the street from Mike here now. So that was kind of interesting, just about a half mile down. But, I just love the area, and I would go to the beach. My family was still back. They'd come up here every couple weeks, or I'd go back there. And, we just fell in love with the area. So we'd never go back now.
Nice.
It's beautiful here.
Well, so let's talk. So obviously, the when you first came into town, it was the potential. You saw some things, and I just want to kind of delve into that a little bit. Certainly, a lot of times when it comes to development, I'm certainly no expert, but you almost have to have a perfect storm, right? You have to have some leadership that's ready to make some changes, maybe jump on a limb or two. Obviously, finances plays a big role in all that, but more importantly, you have to have people, developers, if they're not local, have an interest. And so can you describe, kind of, was there a perfect storm here in Muskegon when you started? I mean, or did it take some time to kind of mold and develop that?
I would say we were on the cusp of that perfect storm, There was a plan called I forget what the plan was called, but it was a kind of a downtown vision plan for downtown Muskegon that had pretty pictures of what it could look like. And I know that there was an effort to kind of advance that plan. Back in probably 2012 or 2013, the breweries started talking. And the breweries came in 2013, I believe. And that kind of honestly changed the face of the downtown because younger people started coming downtown. We always had people that were going to the Frohenthal and for other cultural events at the Art Museum. The Hackley and Hume homes were very popular. Lakeshore Museum Center, all the museums in the downtown. But, there weren't many restaurants, if any, in the downtown. I think there were 2 or 3 at the time. But the breweries brought in younger people and others who just like craft beer. And I think that kind of got the ball rolling. And then when Frank Peterson came in as city manager, I think that really kept the ball rolling and that momentum there because, Frank wasn't afraid of taking chances.
Very true. Very true. So what was the first, what was the first big project that you sunk your teeth into when you started? Or were there multiple big projects?
There were a few, but the one that I'm kind of laughing because a few months in or maybe a year in, I was gifted the parks too through the county. So the first big thing that we did there was we put up a fence around Heritage Landing. And that was at the request of the festivals because, our big festivals down there, they have a lot of setup that they have to do. So the fence was something that could help them. And during this time, our state senator at the time, Jeff Hansen, was talking about, the possibility of cruise ships coming to town. So, we were kind of just kicking that idea around, but we didn't have anything firm on that. So the fence was the first big thing, and then there was also the discussion in the background of the potential for a convention center. And those are probably the really big ones that I can remember right off the bat. And it turned out that in 2015, one of the cruise ships got bumped from Holland. They were going to Holland, and they got bumped to here. So Cindy Larson from the Chamber of Commerce and I got together and talked about what are we going to do. They were going to be here in 24 hours. So we really had to get a plan together quickly. So we reached out to the trolley company, Muskegon Trolley Company, which is kind of an offshoot of Matt's, to secure some trolleys to bring people around the downtown area. We talked to all the museums in the area and had them open their doors. And I think we even asked them if they'd let the people in for free. So the people got here. Some of them did go to our museums and others went on buses to Holland, which was fine, at the time. And that was in late that was in early September of 2015. And then 2016, we had 10 ships come in the next year. So in between that time, we had to build a section of dock down at Heritage Landing. And we were able to get that accomplished. And then it's been cruise ships every summer ever since, with the exception of the 2 COVID years.
Yeah, no, it is. I tell you, when I driving that stretch as I do often through the course of the day, and seeing the cruise ship docked at Heritage Landing is pretty cool.
It is.
It always reminds me of this idea that, hey, we've got people from out of town coming to explore, what we as residents know or should know and treasure, which is I think is awesome. What now? I know if memory serves me correctly, because I've heard you speak a few times at some of the business breakfasts. Obviously, tourism is a big industry, and it's an industry that can help drive a local economy. What changes or what did you see as potential, and then the changes maybe you made from the time you got here to increase the level of tourism? I know we talked about cruise ships, but there's a lot of different, which I didn't know until listening to you speak, there's a lot of different marketing things and simple things really that can be done to help promote a community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. One of the main things we did when I first got here is we didn't have a sales department. It was We went after the group tour market, which is the motor coaches and, basically senior citizens coming in and touring your town, maybe having lunch, sometimes staying overnight. So we were kind of involved in that, but we had to fill the meeting space and we needed more what we call in the industry heads in beds. So we brought in a salesperson, we got that off the ground, and then with that, the discussion about the convention center started heating up. So I can get to that in a minute, but I'll never forget when I first got here, the CVB website was one continuous page that scrolled for eons, So the first thing that we did was we redid the website with one of our local marketing agencies, and that really improved things a lot. Social media was kind of in its infancy then, so we weren't really that involved. But as time progressed, of course, you get everything from social media. But the convention center was a great story because we really didn't have the room for meetings here. The Holiday Inn, which is now the Delta, as you know, has the banquet area there, and they have a couple other small breakout rooms. But for larger conferences, we weren't able to accommodate them. So the convention center discussions started in earnest, really. And we developed a plan to be able to use some of the funds that are collected as the accommodations tax here. And then the hotels decided to do a hotel self-assessment, which added to the funding for the convention center. So working with the city, Parkland Development, and the county, we were able to bond the convention center and get it built during COVID. And it opened during COVID in April 13th of 2020, which was the heart of COVID. It was the worst time for a convention center to open. And the state was still shut down at that time, too. You couldn't have meetings of more than 25 people. So in July 17th, I think, of that year, the state opened back up, and we were able to bring conferences in. But by that time, they had either canceled for 2020 and 2021, or they rebooked somewhere else. And we were kind of just left holding a convention center that was empty. So the sales staff worked very hard on that. The sales staff at the convention center and at the CVB, and a lot of people like yourself had conferences from your state associations that would come in. So the county's employees really helped in that respect. We got the prosecuting attorneys. We've had police conferences in there. We've had assessors conferences, all sorts of different state associations that are coming in. So that really jump-started the convention center. I was just looking at some of the numbers today, and in 2020, it would have been our county FY 23, I think it was, there were about 9,000 people that came into town. from the conferences that we touched, that the CVB touched. And of that, probably 5,500 or 6,000 hotel room nights for that. And the hotel room nights are what pay for the convention center. So it worked out really well.
Have you found it? I mean, as far as like I'll say the hotel service industry, have you found them to be good partners with each other? I mean, because in some respects, in particular, the restaurants they're in competition with one another essentially for business. But obviously, without a thriving downtown, nobody survives. And so,
Right.
have you found them to be pretty good partners to work with?
Yes, I would say so. And I think they're catching on more and more when they see these numbers coming in. They'll see, when you have a conference and 300, 400, 500 people are out in your town, you better be ready for them. We send around alerts to let the restaurants know that they're coming. And I think the restaurants have stepped up their game, but they're still having some staffing issues. It's difficult. And as you know, living in our area, Sundays and Mondays are tough to find a place to eat.
Yep.
So, you have to drive a bit. But some of the restaurants downtown, like a new one, the Early Owl, is open, I think, 7 days a week now. Sociable opens in the afternoons and into the evenings. So there is that entertainment. And right near the convention center itself, there's a number of restaurants and establishments that people can visit while they're here. So I think, everybody's working together. Could we work together more? Sure. But restaurants run on, it's tight if you own a restaurant, not only with finances, but with staffing and everything else. So you have to be really strategic in your opening times and days and that sort of thing. So
how have you found, it was funny, not necessarily funny, but again, being an outsider coming in, so early on, the running joke about Muskegon was, we're the beer tent capital of the world, or Michigan, or I can't remember what it was. But you take that sort of that running joke, and now you look at today and the thriving festival life that happens here. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because, certainly, at least from my historical knowledge, it seems now that almost every weekend, starting in late spring, early summer, all the way through into the fall, we're running festivals every weekend, and they're quality. I mean, it's not just I'll say the mom and pop festival. We're talking about quality festivals. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, the festivals are huge for us here in Muskegon County, and they bring a lot of the people. A good percentage of them are day trippers, but also a certain percentage, especially on the multi-day festivals like Irish Fest, Unity, the Lakeshore Art Festival, we get people and vendors that are staying overnight. So the festivals make a very big impact on our community and on a lot of the non-for-profit organizations that will do, say, parking or something, and they'll get a cut of the parking. So the festivals really do bring a lot of people in. We look at people that are 100 miles or more away because they have propensity to stay overnight. So those are the ones we really focus on, but you can't discount the day trippers. I think last fiscal year, we had overall people that lived outside of Muskegon County and came into the county, 22.1 million visitors came here. Or I'm sorry, 2.2 million visitors came here 21 million times. So they're coming back, frequently coming back. And of those, about 1 million of those visitors came from outside of 100 miles. So they're staying overnight and they're spending their money here. Some of them are staying, probably a lot of them are staying, a week or more here for their summer vacations, because we're a great summer vacation location,
absolutely. Well, it just every time that I hear you speak, or that I personally observe things going on, it just really gets me excited, because I've always been a true believer of this idea that Muskegon is truly a diamond in the rough, and for the longest time it never was perceived that way. But now I think we're seeing, from the numbers you're describing, I mean, the housing shortage that we're experiencing right now, people are actually looking at Muskegon as, holy cats. I mean, I didn't realize how great this place is.
They are. Yeah. And I think evidence of that is the housing units that are being built.
Yep.
There's something like, if you look at the three big projects now, it's hundreds of units that will be coming into the fold within the next few years. So that'll be really helpful. And people now, because of remote working options, people are really looking at moving to a place that they like, instead of being in a big city that they may, have had enough of or something. So I think really with the additional housing units, that'll help our tax base, that'll help our restaurants. We'll have, the municipalities will be able to provide better services for people, for our residents. And I really think it can, I think it'll help our area. So
moving now, let's look in the future just a little bit. What's on the horizon? Certainly there's some big pieces of property waiting to be developed. So what can we expect to see in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think we'll see some additional hotel development. We do have a hotel opening in January of 2024 out in Fruitport Township, right off of Harvey Street near the Culvers there.
Okay.
That's I think 100-room Holiday Inn Express. And then there's a Marriott property that will be extended stay property that's going to open in the downtown area, which will help for conferences too. It'll provide more rooms for larger conferences downtown. And then, I think most of the plans for the new housing developments at Adelaide Point, Shaw Walker, and Windward Point have some type of retail or bar and restaurant element to them. So I think that'll be really helpful. But, the thing that I'm really looking for, and I know it's a weird time in the world for retailers because everybody's buying things online.
Yep.
But if you go to the beach town communities up and down Lake Michigan here, they have a lot of shops, mainly appealing to women. And we need more of those in the area. So I hope that, the next 5 years will bring additional retail in the downtown area. We'll have to be really cognizant of the festivals too, because they're kind of being pushed out of the downtown area because a lot of these properties are being developed, which is a good thing for the city overall. But, for the festivals, it makes it a challenge for them. So we're going to be looking at, what we can do at Heritage Landing to be more accommodating to festivals and events that may kind of get pushed out of the downtown or we'll have to work something out with that. It's going to be a big issue.
Yeah. Well, as problems go, it's a good problem to have.
It is.
I want you just to comment a little bit on the infusion, if you will, of the college campuses. Now, we've had certainly the Culinary Institute has been downtown for some time. MCC, obviously, just recently in the last few years has their building. Obviously, there's some talk of Baker College in general coming in closer to the downtown, if not in the downtown area. Is that making a difference or some sort of impact as it relates to the overall tourism retail business?
I don't know if necessarily it's making an impact on tourism. Perhaps, if the students are young enough where their parents will still come visit them, I think that would make an impact, especially during the summertime. But as far as the downtown activity goes, I would definitely say the students make a big difference there. I see them in coffee shops, at some of our other restaurants and establishments downtown. And these are Culinary Institute students, and over at the Sturris Center, you mentioned MCC. So that's, it does bring a certain additional vibrancy to the downtown, I guess.
Just a couple more questions. There's a couple more thoughts and feelings I have on this. So again, thanks you for your time today. We've talked, obviously, for a lot of these bigger projects, it takes individuals that I'll say developers that have the capital, that have the vision, that have some, whether it's a connection to the town or see the same potential that we as outsiders have seen for a long time. Describe, because there are several names that I can think of, or a few names anyways, that have invested a lot of time and money into this community to make it better. What has the relationship been like for your department or you and the things that are being done here in Muskegon?
We have good relationships with those developers, the hotel developers especially, and Mr. Rooks, with Parkland. His staff members, some of them are on our Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, and we frequently work with them on sales initiatives. And then, a lot of the other attractions, we're in touch with all of the attractions in the area. Many of them sit on that committee also, if not all of them, our festivals. We're constantly in contact with them so that we can push the word out about their festivals or events or specials they may have. I mean, one of the most visited places on our website is the deals page because everybody's looking for a deal, you know. But yeah, we talk frequently to all of them. The housing developers, not so much unless there's maybe a retail element to it. But a lot of the developers that are doing housing projects have their hands in something else that may be tourism related. So we reach out to them often.
Now, I have to say that you probably have one of the coolest offices in the county. And there's a lot of history to that office. Let's talk a little bit about that. Where are you located and how cool is it that you're located where you're at?
Yeah, when I first came for the interview, for some reason I didn't really know that it was in the Union Depot downtown. My interview was actually at the Hall of Justice at your office. Yep. But when I came down here after the interview, I went to the depot and checked it out, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool, And it's a big old building. Big old buildings have issues, but we were able to put a roof on it some years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, that really sealed things up. So it's in good shape now, and it was built in 1895, renovated in 1995, and for many years, it sat as a storage area. So I think it was either city or county that owned it at that time. Probably I think the city sold it to the county, and it sat for maybe 10 or 15 years before it was developed into the Visitor Information Center. And it's great working there. I love the building. It's easy to tell someone where you work, Yeah. Just look for the big old depot, you'll find it.
Yeah, it's obviously this being a lumber town and that depot and that railway being located so close to the water, I can't even imagine what it looked like back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was probably the hub, and now it's sort of coming a little bit full circle that it still is an important, iconic building for a lot of reasons here in Muskegon. So that part of history hasn't been destroyed. Right.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most photographed buildings next to Hackley and Hume and the big one, Hackley Admin Building, that are the most photographed buildings in Muskegon and Muskegon County. We get every year, it starts up in around April or May. We get all the seniors come down. And they're all getting their pictures taken there. We have weddings there sometimes. Bike Time in Rebel Road puts a tent there too during that festival. So it is really a hub of activity. Also during that festival, the veterans are right out in front. So it's a great place, and it's open for meetings. So if you ever want to have a meeting there, let me know.
Excellent. No, actually, I've had meetings up on that second level before, and it's really, it's kind of cool.
It is.
It's a level you didn't think existed, and it's got a nice sized meeting room. So if you're listening to this and you want a nice meeting space in a really cool building, get a hold of Bob Lukens.
Give us a call.
I want to finish off with our parks because I know, the chamber a couple of years ago, that was kind of their theme, was that outdoor living, really promoting the outdoors in our area. And we have, just great places. Beaches speak for themselves. The trail system, the bike trail system, all the waterways that are available. How important, or I should say, what have you been working on in our park system to keep making those areas attractive to campers every year?
Sure. During COVID, everyone wanted to get out. Everyone went outdoors. And a lot of it has transferred into non-COVID times. So people are still very outdoor oriented. And as you mentioned, we're the perfect place for that. We have the 3 state parks here. We have now 3 county parks on Lake Michigan. The 3 state parks are on Lake Michigan, and then, numerous other parks, not only in the county system, but in the individual municipalities. City of Muskegon, I think, has like 30 parks. So it's very important, and, outdoor recreation is very important. Our beaches, we frequently see volleyball tournaments out there, beach soccer, windsurfers, swimming, everything out there. But our biggest project recently was the Nugent Sand acquisition. It's 377 acres in Norton Shores that we're currently in the master planning process for now. So we'll be having some community input sessions in early 2024 for that. But it's, like I said, 377 acres, and it's a fantastic place. If you haven't been out there, you really should go out. The South Lake portion of it, on Seminole Road in Lincoln, basically, it has been left natural, and it hasn't been mined in probably 20 years or so. So it's fairly natural as a sand mine could be, or a former sand mine could be. But it has beautiful trails, a lot of wildlife out there. And then the north side, which was most recently sand mined, is the area that we're really going to be focusing on now, and that has the Lake Michigan access there. So it'll be a bit of a challenge to get people out to Lake Michigan, but we'll be working on the trails there on really both sides, North Lake and South Lake. So look for that in the future, and we really would like the community's input on that, on what they'd like to see there too.
So if folks want to learn more about what there is to do here in Muskegon, where should they go?
They should go to visitmuskegon.org. That's our website. Great place to go.
Pretty simple.
Yep. And we're on Facebook too, so of course.
Excellent. Well, Bob, thank you so much for joining me today, and really, again, sending the message that Muskegon is a place to live, work, and play. And so thank you for what you do. I'm glad that you're here.
Thanks for what you do too.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, folks, that's the end of our show. Again, thank you to Muskegon Rotary for sponsoring such a wonderful program. And this isn't at all possible without the innovation and ingenuity of Mike Voges. So thank you, Mike, and we'll see you soon.